Hello, this is the voice of Stewart Pearce, and welcome to Deep Dialogues, a series of vital conversations that I have with global soul stewards from all over the world who provide us with an understanding of how we can create a new hierarchy of values that is absolutely significant at this unique time of becoming. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening. Christian. Christian is here saying
Amazing. Hello, everyone.
So anyway, it's obviously you can see me and I can see you now. So I just want to formally welcome you, dear Guru Jagat, to the beginning of a new season of Deep Dialogues. So thank you. And to all the people that are now beginning to, I see wonderful names that I recognize. Thank you so much for coming into this new season. We had wonderful time. We had 2 seasons last year. And so this beautiful lady is beginning the new season of Deep Dialogue. So I'm absolutely thrilled. So let me just formally introduce you all to the wonderful Guru Jagat. Let's just get rid of that. Okay. So Guru Jagat is the founder and CEO of 7 global businesses, including the Rama Institute for Applied Yogic Science, which has locations in Venice, Los Angeles, California generally, Mallorca, Spain, and New York City. Guru Jagat is a poet, yogi, and international thought leader. And she has a best-selling book called Invincible Living, The Power of Yoga, and a renegade host of an envelope-pushing podcast named as Reality Riffing. Sounds just amazing. Guru Jagat has created a new model of integrated female empowerment and facilitates programs entitled Aquarian Woman's Leadership Society and the Graces programs. As founder and CEO of the Rama Institute, Guru Jagat has also pioneered Rama TV, her own clothing and lifestyle brands, and Rama Foundation, which was created to make available energy, wholeness, and healing to all communities. You are a busy lady.
I am busy. Idle hands of the devil's play work. I like to create and work and be a good creation of the creator.
There was a quote that came to me this afternoon, which you'll probably recognize very fully, from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which I thought might be an interesting umbrella to the possibility of what we may be able to exchange in relation to invincible living. The planet doesn't need more successful people. The planet needs people full of compassion, so that the peacemakers, healers, change makers, storytellers, meditators, and lovers of all kinds can heal the world. Invincible Living is an extraordinary title. Please, can you synthesize what you purport the major thrust to be about Invincible Living?
Well, just to respond to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, not to disagree, but to respond, my definition of success is what he's describing. That I think the redefinition of what it means to be a successful person is what has to happen in this age of Aquarius or this new era, which basically is the person he describes. And it's very much connected to my belief around invincible living and the ability to anywhere, anytime, any person has the uplink codes inside of them to be able to start to activate a more, we'll call it holistic endurance for the challenges in our lives, for these times that we're all living through, for the good times too. I mean, I think it's something that we don't think about when we're in the harder, more challenging times, is that actually when things start to go well and we meet someone that we're falling in love with, or we get some promotion, those times can be equally as challenging, and a lot of the kind of old familial triggers or patterns come up, and we were up against our own growth, and those times can just be as much of a growth challenge as the times that are more in the lower, the failures and the breakups and that kind of thing. So Invincible Living is really a householder's guide to finding that uplink in you at any time, so that you can have some skill sets, some tools, some things that will help you to maneuver a complex time on the planet. And the name of it comes from the yogic poetry. And there's a poet and yogi and saint named Guru Gobind Singh, who much of what he wrote about was invincibility and being a human, being superhuman by activating your humanity. And that was kind of the crux of his teachings.
Mm-hmm. And if I may say also, we were sharing just before coming, as a pre-show chat, about how we're recognizing and with great compassion reviewing what is taking place in the world, but at the same time feeling that there we are, buoyant, flying, rather like eagles above the storm, which I mean, I mention it simply because I don't feel it's an indiscretion, but it really is a description of what you're sharing with us, that Invincible Living is about the fact that our spiritual practice has to be as disciplined, dedicated, and devoted as it can be at this stage. Because if we are engaging twice, thrice, 4 times a day, we're constantly preparing our neural pathways to be with the mind of God rather than with the mind of man at the moment, which tends to look towards chaos for very understandable reasons. Is that something you would subscribe to?
Well, you've said it beautifully, and to put it in, I mean, I guess my only kind of addition to that would be that it's the technological age. I think sometimes when we use these technological terms, which are very, very apropos for this time, but also for the whole mechanism of the human evolution, which is that you're uplinking to the macro computer, basically, which we could call God, which we could call the Godhead, the God self. You could call the universe. You could call it so many different things. But that uplink allows us to live in a different frequency. And I think that that's something that many people who have been practicing these techniques, whatever they are, meditation, contemplation, compassion, whatever it is, I think many of us are feeling the fruition of some of these practices in these moments. So I think that though it can feel like you're living a completely different life than other people, it is because of the fruition of your practice and your intentions.
Mm. And I guess the other element being that we have recognized where our shadow is placed, or indeed we are in the process of recognizing where our shadow is placed, whereas the shadow has really been denied by the patriarchy. It's been pushed away. And now, of course, we're in this time where all the astrological revelations are bringing shadow to the fore. Thank God our time is now, when wrong comes up at every turn, never to leave us until we take the longest stride of soul we humans ever took. Which is a line from a great poet, actually written in the 1930s, but it sort of sums it up, doesn't it?
I mean, that's it. That's it right there.
It's coming to the fore. So I feel we really hear you in terms of this wonderful promise that you give us of invincible living. So much of your work has strata of great richness. And one of the great glories is how the Rama Institute has come into creation over the last, what, 10 years?
Yeah, it's been, I mean, it kind of dropped in as in this, with this name, it dropped in on summer solstice 2012. So we're kind of 8+ years
Wow. Yeah.
now. Yeah. Yeah.
It's exciting, which is when we first met, because I
Yeah.
remember at the Institute, and
Yeah.
you know, you gloriously came to see me as a client, but I saw this wonderful expanse of abundance opening up before. What I mean, it's come obviously at an extraordinary time to triumph in the way that it has. What do you feel are the constituent parts that have led towards its immense success?
Well, Stuart, I think, you know, I do want to say, because we're here, and I know that these things channel through you constantly. But when I saw you that day, the first day I met you, you were one of the first people, besides my lineage holders, that really saw the etheric making of 1,000 lifetimes that have brought us to this moment. And you put it, you know, some of the first words out of your mouth to me, and it's something I've repeated both to myself in the dark times, and also used to inspire my team and the people who are involved in building this. And I think what I would say to everyone, as a reminder, not that we don't know this, is that the things that we create here in our human life, and with our hands and with our heart, and in the 3D and 4D, and how they exist multidimensionally, they have to be gridded etherically, which is what Stewart, you know, offered to me, just the sight of that. And the acknowledgement of that, they have to be gridded etherically in certain ways, that will may take, you know, it may take no time, it may take, you know, because it's out of time, but oftentimes, and whoever's listening to this now in the future, you were brought to this conversation because you're in that process. You're incarnate right now on the planet because you have spent so much time gridding etheric creations and geniuses and things that you now have to bring here, or you're in the process of bringing to the planet to help the planet right now. And I think that's really the crux of the success of Rama, is that this is not just a lifetime of work. And I think it's, you know, as Westerners, sometimes it's hard for us to grasp that reality, that we're working on this stuff for lifetimes often, and that we're the culmination of many lifetimes of accomplishment. So that's part of why I think that Rama is doing what it's doing, and then also there's lineage. You know, there's true spiritual lineage at Rama. I have a living teacher. He had a living teacher. We have root gurus, and I, you know, in a time when everyone's their own teacher and their own guru, and nobody wants to really play the higher spiritual game of having certain devotion to a lineage, Rama is holding that frequency. And I think, you know, as you know, with your teachers and stuff, this is important.
I love the way you express it. I love it. And, you know, as you speak, it reminds me of a wonderful evocation that you're pledging, that we all need to, particularly at this time, venerate our teachers. And for those who have maybe unremembered their teachers, in the sense of the fact that they are etheric or celestial masters and mistresses, that we need to go back into recognizing that we all have had these amazing spiritual lineages that have brought us, as you say, through a culmination of 1,000 lives to this point of revelation. So yeah, because so many of us are awakening at this time, and yet so often it's through desperation, and we get caught up in the fantasy of inspiration because suddenly the supernatural world is open to us. And how you're wonderfully grounded about drawing supernature into the possibility of what it is to rearrange our own physical geometry whilst we're here, so that we can live full lives. Where did it all begin for you? When was your initial initiation?
Well,
in, in this incarnation also?
yeah, I mean, I don't often talk about this, but um, I was born several miles in the middle of nowhere away from my root guru's stupa that he was in the same year had bought and the land, and they had begun the construction there. And it was, I didn't put this all together until my 30, maybe fourth birthday, that I had been born in, literally like kind of one of the most rural counties of Colorado here in the States, several miles away from this stupa. And that the same year that I was born was the year that they had got the land and started the construction. And my root guru said about the stupa, this is my consciousness in physical form that will remain here after I die. So I just put that together, in my 30s, but there was all sorts of kind of mythos about my birth, and there was like double rainbows and all that kind of stuff, and my mom's kind of she's from Baltimore, and she doesn't kind of mince words. So she wasn't making it, she wasn't waxing rhapsodic about it. She was just telling the truth. And so, you have in the Tibetan system and other systems, you recognize that when you come from certain kind of reincarnational streams, your incarnations are just different. And so I think it started right there. And I remember on the day of my birth onto the planet in this lifetime that I was upset because I didn't realize that I was going to be in a baby form. And I was like ready to do the work with my teacher, who then died in 1987, a couple of years, like before I was 7 or 8. And so that was kind of a big sadness that I carried in my childhood that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And it wasn't about my parents or my familial structure. It was a very deep sadness. And so I very early was looking for a teacher, and once that happened, and I was born into an interesting family who was also that, because you have to. So my brother was, by the time I was like 7, he was getting up at 4 a.m., taking cold showers. He was Hare Krishna, and he was reading the Bhagavad Gita and chanting the mantra. So I've just been doing this, that's kind of, that's just regular, I think, for a childhood of people who've been up to this, who are old souls. So that was kind of my first initiation, and then it went on like that. But it's a spiral, not a straight line.
Mm. And it appears to me that as you speak, it was both nature and nurture, because there you were, etherically blessed by the stupa being not far away, but also because you were primed within your etheric body to feel the extraordinary interaction that was taking place, even though it may not have been fully within the forefront of your consciousness as a child.
Yeah.
Similarly, we meet on a similar level, where it was revealed to me very, very early on, by being in connection with the multidimensional universe, of why I was here. It's just then I had to get on with the whole thing of, how do I speak this 3D language?
Details.
Yeah, I mean, and the people around us were not fully aware of what we were seeing. There are many stories I'm sure that we could share on that level. However, and so we come to this meeting here today, knowing full well that we've been through some very extraordinary portals. And I know that in our pre-show chat, you were talking about the Venus Gate. And of course, the portals that I was principally thinking about were the Saturn-Jupiter grand conjunction, going through Christmas into the new year, now the Venus Gate. I wondered if there was anything specific that you'd like to reveal to us about your unique understandings of this astrological shift that we've just been moving through.
Yeah, well, as we spoke, days into that, or right in that opening of the Great Conjunction, And the vibrational frequency that came from that talk and then kind of emanated out, just so many people have told me that it was a great heart opening for them, and just a huge kind of upliftment of whatever parts of them that had, been downtrodden or felt, alienated. So I want to say that I know that these are very auspicious times that we get to meet like this. And so today we were kind of trying to schedule meditation during the Venus gate. And then we realized that we had pre-scheduled this talk, and I just kind of chuckled to myself because I felt that very much we are together during this opening of love frequency, because that's ultimately what these Venus gates are. They happen every month. And I think that they're part of the new Aquarian understanding of cosmology, because even though there was some understanding of Venus's orbits and her movements, it's really this age of Aquarius that has brought this more to the forefront. People are talking about this more. We have an incredible evolutionary astrologer who's written a book about it in the Ram community, Tashi Powers, and she's really been at the forefront of bringing this into the pop culture. So I think more people are talking about stuff like this, which I'm just so happy about. But during these, she calls it the Kumari kiss of the cosmos. And so there's just this kind of precious moment where we get to activate a higher frequency of love, which is so needed now. And remember that we don't have to be in the mud of time to be able to make a difference in what's happening on planet Earth. And I think that that's one of the most important things to practice, understand, and meditate on right now, is that you don't fix the 3D by just being in the 3D. It just doesn't work that way. And so anyways, in this moment that we get to be together is this huge kind of heart opening frequency, and it's not a coincidence. And so just knowing that we've been brought together, because I feel there's very unique energy that moves between us. So thank you, Stuart.
Yeah. And well, I'm deeply touched by you mentioning that, because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I completely concur that coming together, we create a fulcrum that triggers a very powerful shift within the etheric. And so, you can hear what Guru Jagat is saying, everybody, that if you are feeling the weight of 3D crisis, it's a very real process. But at the same time, you can hear us invoking, reminding you of that there are other energies taking place, and how remarkable that we can lean into simply the astrological configurations that you've just been sharing with us, so that we can feel that there is celestial aid with us all the time. So yeah, the extraordinary thing. What do you feel is the most important gift of 2021? I mean, this is early days, but as a prognostication.
Well, I was talking about this morning, and it really has been coming very, clearly in my meditations and just in my heart, is that part of where the weaknesses, because I'm always looking at the full spectrum of polarity, and because this is a polarity planet that we're incarnate on at this time. And I'm always looking at, okay, so there's a huge kind of fight right now in many different ways. There's a battle, but part of the 3D rhetoric around the battle is that, the new age people, or some of the people who are believing in conspiracy theories or whatever, they're not logical. And then the people who have alt narratives on things are looking at the people who are just watching the mainstream news and going, well, you're buying something that's actually not completely the truth or whatever. I mean, I'm simplifying it very much, but my kind of neutral space around, and what I think is going to be so important to cultivate in 2021, is that logic, but not the way we've been taught by Socrates or the ancient Grecian kind of thought schools, but actually prior to that, in the matriarchal time, and then we swung to the patriarchy, and now we're in it's a supra patriarchy matriarchy. It's not back to the matriarchy. We messed it up too, and the Pallas Athena messed it up too. We were abusing people and abusing our power just as much as the Greeks and the Romans, and on and on and on. The church and all of this, the religions of the age of Pisces. So now we have to go beyond that. And the way that we go beyond that is to really work on our bullshit detectors. That's the straight. So using logic and intuition as and what I'm calling, it's a great term by Robert Graves, a wonderful author from your neighborhood, but he calls it super logic, and I just love the term. I think it's really important right now to activate the more expanded understanding of we need to be logical. We need to take care of ourselves and each other. We need to pay attention to what's going on. We need to pay attention to how we feel, which is truth is obvious. It resonates, and if you're awake in any way, shape, and form, it's there. And then use the neutral mind, the cultivation of neutral mind, to be able to maneuver what is the desire is that we get stuck in the confrontations, and that's part of if you're talking about any agenda, it's a divisive agenda. And the only way we're going to get out of it is that if everybody just has more of a neutral space. But that's a cultivation, and it's not easy. It's much easier said than done. And if you're not practicing some sort of deeper breath or some sort of paying attention to your thoughts, or I'm not saying, of course, I have my practices, but anything is better than nothing, then we're going to get caught up in this kind of what is a very erratic and huge waste of energy and time for, I think, what all of our goals are. No matter what your belief systems are, everybody wants to thrive more and have safe neighborhoods and better education, and people taken care of better, and our elders taken care of better, and I mean, everyone ultimately wants the same thing, and I think we're missing that perspective. So 2021 is going to be a test of these things, and those who have the neutral mind are going to need to use it more than ever and cultivate it more than ever. And so that's the theme. I think we're already seeing 11 days in.
Indeed. And I don't wish to oversimplify, but it seems to me that going back to that wonderful iridescence of the bullshit counter, the more through our spiritual practice, the more that we can really move on a response-worthy activity rather than reaction, the greater stillness that we have. We move away from the intellectualization of opinionation into a deeper, consequential, substantive conversation, which I know when I introduced deep dialogues to me, you sort of went, yummy, this is exactly what we need. Even more thrilling that you're here for the beginning of this season, so that we move into a different area of our bodies. We move much more into our hearts. And of course, we have all, if we reflect carefully, we all know that our hearts are those wonderful organs that always feel through the truth in any situation, because we had that emotional barometer open when we were, or that Geiger counter open when we were children. We knew who was true and who was false. We just simply need to get back to that. It seems to me that much of the conspiracy theorization is to do with an intellectualization of fear rather than dealing with the fear. Let's get caught up in conspiracy. Yeah.
I think it's like you can see both directions where it's a reaction to fear. It's a reaction to the fear of death. It's a reaction to the fear of loss of power, disenfranchisement. I mean, that's all. It's like if we were going to really crystallize it down to something, and I've been talking about this a lot, I feel like no matter where you hit in your belief system, a lot of what's happening is around an unholy relationship to death and to life. And whether it's the earth creating these situations, or whether you look at it as a bioweapon in terms of COVID, or whether you look at it as from the way we've treated the earth, and now we're going to be dealing with the consequences. But every sequence has a consequence here on planet Earth. It's really annoying, but it's part of the deal here. So I think so much of this comes from, we haven't been taught how to hold death in a certain way, and certainly we've not been taught how to live in a certain way.
Beautiful. If you were asked tomorrow, we would like you to come into the House and take the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. through a unique practice that is at the core firmament of your spiritual tradition. Wouldn't that be exciting? What do you feel you may deliver?
I think that I would probably teach them 1 minute breath, because I also feel, just on a very physio-biological.
Oh, yay! Yeah, well done. I was just entertaining everybody by going into a rationalization of when the doing mind was really generated by the Age of Enlightenment. And, suddenly it was, Sir Isaac Newton told everybody to unplug from the anima mundi. So we desacralized nature, we desacralized Divine Mother, and then all got completely stuck in our heads. And it seems to me that what's actually taking place now, within the formulation of the Einsteinian equation, there is no way that we can heal the problems of the world by using the same strategy that created the problems. We need a new strategy, which is a wonderful thesis. And then everybody is saying, well, what's the new strategy? What's the new strategy? And to me, it's obvious. It's about being rather than doing. So in other words, what we're doing is we're moving our bodies into these sublime spiritual practices of really being able to, as you were saying about breath, of taking ourselves into the core ingredient of breath, so that we can literally shift all of the stress hormone in our bodies that has been invigorated by doing, because most of the times we're not doing what we could be doing because they say so. So we move into the being complex so that we can really receive the inspiration of what the moment is all about. Are you still with me? Oh, I can hear you. There you are. You're back again. Obviously, isn't that intriguing that when I asked you that question, and you began so beautifully talking about when I asked you that question, can you hear me? Mm-hmm. When I asked you that question and you began so beautifully with what you would do in the Senate, that suddenly it froze.
Not surprised.
This means that we're on to something.
God forbid our politicians and world leaders breathe deeper. I mean, that would just, change everything.
It was something that when I worked at Shakespeare's Globe, when I was part of the team at Shakespeare's Globe, under the extraordinary helm of Mark Rylance, that Mark had me go into every single board meeting with the city fathers, who were the members of the board, to conduct deep breath work for at least 5 or 10 minutes before they even began with any of the deliberations. So I hear you. So you go into the Senate or into Congress, and you would bring them into breath. Please carry on.
Yeah, I would teach them this breath that's so simple, and it's basically you inhale for the same amount of time as you hold the breath, and then you exhale the same amount of time. So if you do 10 seconds in, then you hold 10 seconds, then you exhale 10 seconds. And within several breaths, it neutralizes the neurosis, the fears, the shallow kind of thinking, because yogically, shallow breath, shallow nervous system, shallow thoughts, shallow life. And our world is being run by people who have shallow nervous systems. and so I've often said this, that and have had just, we've had the great honor of working with some of these world leaders and people who are changing culture. And this is the fundamental of what everything you teach is, that if the nervous system, if the neural pathways can just deepen and hold a little bit of a deeper thought, which basically is compassion, back to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. A deeper thought is, this person is me and I am this person, and we're not against each other, even if we have different beliefs. That's fine. I love people who have different beliefs than me. I find it to be wonderful. I honor people who have different beliefs than me, and that takes strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there is implicit compassion within the expression of what the different belief is, we move away from confrontation into what I call carefrontation. So truth is spoken, absolutely, and there is no divisiveness or no division. It is absolutely about moving into the inclusivity, but with a complete acceptance of the fact that we're still living in the law of two. And so there is one opinion here, there's another opinion there. But what is the meeting place? And it's the meeting place which is the still point, isn't it? Where the empathy and the compassion bruise through, and then, like a fountain, produces unforeseen circumstances that bring something which is often commonplace into something which is really supernatural. And we all feel it because we're having these deeper questions and deeper breaths. I love the paradigm that you've just offered us about shallow minds and shallow feelings. If the breath is shallow, it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
And I have to say that I don't know what news everyone's watching around the world, but I've seen some images from what happened last week that are not being portrayed on the mainstream media, that are images of great compassion and great humanity. And I just want to say that I believe that there's a reason that those images aren't the ones that are going out into the mainstream, and that we have to remember that, even the most confrontive moment between people with different belief systems, there's alchemical things that happen, that are happening right now, that are about our humanity and our collective compassion. And I believe in humans. I'm a
Yes.
great optimist,
Yes.
and I believe in humans. And I've seen some images, TikTok is like hilariously become like a place where I actually can see some things that are happening on the ground in some of these more difficult situations. And, you just see things that are like, wow, this is happening too, simultaneous to some of the, madness. And so it gives me hope. And I want to offer that as
Yeah.
well.
I echo that. I have an immense belief in the human spirit. And indeed, we've seen just in modern history these junctures that have been shocking societal traumas. The assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the assassination of JFK, the assassination of Robert Kennedy, the assassination, so to speak, of Diana, where extraordinary aspects of Shakti, extraordinary vibrations of Shakti were released. And so, even though the perpetration of the act was so ghastly and catastrophic, at the same time, the hope, the compassion, the empathy, the love that sprang forth was extraordinary. It is recorded that when Diana passed, 3.5 billion people wept, which then was over almost 2/3 of the population of the planet in 1997, And of course, we all felt it. But and thereby hangs an interesting question which comes to my mind, but I won't go into it now, which is all about that specific aspect. So you see, great works are taking place in the amazing direction that the Rama Institute is moving in, and all of the exquisite work that you're doing. I pray in this moment that you have the opportunity of moving into situations with all the great thought leaders and change makers of our world, where you and or your emissaries are taken in to spend a few moments of meditative breath. I feel that that's a wonderful prophecy that will come true. I know it's certainly something that I'm being asked to do with the change makers that I'm working with. People who are CEOs of banks are doing this because they're my people.
Yes, that's right. That's
So
right.
what do you feel, bearing in mind the extraordinariness of what we can see taking place within the arena of possibilities within the work that we're describing? What do you feel is a 5-year or 3-year trajectory of the Rama Institute?
Well, currently we are working on Rama University, and this is something we've spoken about, and we are, we made some headway in 2020, so it's very exciting that we could actually enroll our first class, possibly even 2021, but probably more 2022, where we have a new experience of education in terms of the post post grade school to whatever, kindergarten to 12, education, a college education that is about this new need for these young souls. They have a need to be educated differently, and I think we are not answering that need very well. And I'm very dedicated to answering that need. And I think that there's a combination of sound technologies and different types of brain and neural technologies and movement technologies and business technologies that are and science technologies that are about what this generation, these new generations, are coming to the planet to deliver, and they need a different container of education. So this is my big passion, and my legacy is Rama University. So we're working on this, and it's an international, and people are like, oh, they can, is it just that people come to learn yogic science? That's just one piece of it. There's going to be schools for business, entrepreneurial science, cosmological sciences, obviously, kind of more of the mystery schools and esoterica. We're working on the neuroscience and the science of the mind school. And so this is, a real university, and I'm very excited about that. So that's a big, huge kind of northern star for us. And I think 3 years we will definitely be enrolling and having our first year or two of our first class. And then I'm, because I'm into pop culture and because I'm into being a real human and enjoying it, I have always been into what does the whole experience of our humanity look like, and that's what I've created. That's how I create with that kind of nucleus. And so one of the reasons why hip hop is the most popular sound frequency on the planet right now is because they understood in some way that you have to, it's a whole lifestyle, and you have to create the whole lifestyle. And so that's what I've been doing with all of our Rama projects. I'm wearing something that I designed. I'm really gotten really into all of the fashion and the lifestyle stuff. We have a record company. We're putting out new frequencies of music, a new genre of music, in my opinion. We have the TV station where we're really trying to pump out new content that is of the kind of content that you want to be on Netflix, but they just don't have the frequency to produce content like that. That's what we're doing at Rama TV. And then, all of our Rama Festival, which you just took part in, I know it will be bigger than Coachella and some of these other festivals, because people want a different experience. They don't want to just do drugs and, bash their bodies around. They want a higher frequency experience. So just working on all that stuff, and my new book, 5D Femme, is coming out in 2021 as well.
Sorry, the line crackled. What's the name of the book?
5D femme.
Wow. So this is what I was actually picking up, you know, because the wonder of what you're doing, I mean, you know, all that you've just described to us, I find this so exciting. A, because it's very much the creative spiritual trajectory that I wish to be, that I'm involved in and wish to be more involved in. But B, because so much of the observations that we've made about how so many of the establishments are formulated through patriarchal equations, and that the management of the process is so often stuck within the patriarchal equation. The definitions are so rigid that what you're actually doing is seeing a way of being able to so beautifully and so seductively and carefully and compassionately release all that rigidity, so that, well, why can't we, within this profound devotion, this dedicated, disciplined pathway, why can't we bring in this quality of innovation, recognizing that we are actually not polarized, but part of the entire macro? And the way that you're doing it through hip hop, through the educational foundation, through lifestyle, layered living, just amazing, absolutely amazing. So you're a very, very busy lady. Are you still with us? Okay. What is, yeah, Dearish, that's interesting, isn't it? What is 5D Fem? Yeah, well, obviously I haven't heard a full exposition on the substance of what Guru Jagat is writing about at the moment. You can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be asking for a signed copy as soon as it comes out. But I believe that what this is, you see, is a real gymnastic leap into drawing 5D considerations deep into what we're experiencing at the moment, which is what I was beginning to talk about in relation to the fact that we're so fixated by the doing aspect of our consciousness rather than moving into the being aspect of our consciousness. You see, the difficulty with doing is that the way that it's been augmented by all of our educational processes, or the demand of our technological world within the corporate world, etc., is that we've been encouraged to produce high levels of stress in the production of the doing modus. And what this has done is moved us into a frenzy so that we're ritually not moving into the deeper, more consequential actions of the way that our lives work. I mean, one of the common things that we hear is the way that our voices are going up into the head here. And I mean, you know, everywhere you go in the United States of America, you hear this sort of thing going on, okay? The same thing is happening in this city, except it sounds a little bit more like that, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to really dropping deep into the breath and deep into the body. And so if we can really concentrate on practicing all of the being intention, the contemplative, the meditative aspects of our lives, automatically what we do as soon as we engage with the deep breath is that we move into feeling deeper rhythms of the cosmos moving through us. So the whole of our breath level slows down and becomes more specifically deliberated. And so as a result of that, we move away from the cortisol and hyperadrenalized levels of energy production into something which is more in association with the substance of oxytocin and dopamine that allows us to slow down and feel the full, and serotonin, so that we can actually really feel the relaxation of our process taking place. So this is what going into the feminine counterpart or the archetypal frequency of what 5D is all about. Do you have any questions, please? Otherwise, evidently Guru Jagat is not going to be able to reconvene with us. Okay, so yeah, cool dude. I may be a cool dude. Thank you, Rose. Are there any questions rather than comments? No, any questions? Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you so much for coming through. And I think what Guru Jagat and I are going to do is to go back into our conversation and record, not today, obviously, but to record the substance of what was missing when we started talking about 5D Fem. And that recording, I will make sure will be accessible for you all on Facebook. As an empath, how do you recommend erecting boundaries? Wonderful question. So the first thing is, have you defined what your boundaries are? Okay, so what I'm going to do tomorrow is to copy the 12 energetic boundary principles that I shared with Diana, Princess of Wales, which I included in my new book, Diana, the Voice of Change. How's that? I will actually make sure that they are, because it's something that I'm actually annotating at the moment for another program that I've been asked to reveal in Los Angeles. And obviously this will all be through cyberspace. So I will do that because energetic boundaries are absolutely quintessential. Rather similarly to what Guru Jagat was just describing to us about building the etheric crystalline sheath before we begin to allow in 3D the creation of what the formulation is going to be about, the interrelationship of the right personnel, meaning the people that are able to co-create together, etc., etc. Where can you find more information about my coaching? Well, you can go either to stewartpearce.com or to dianathevoiceofchange.com. And there's a lot of information there. But stewartpearce.com is probably a real hub for the majority of the work that I do. And then, of course, you'll see my wonderful books. There are now 6 books that are composite writings about all of the disciplines that I'm engaged in, whether it be in the arts, in the corporate world, or indeed in the spiritual world. So, ladies and gentlemen, our time has now come to a point of fruition. And so, unfortunately, Guru Jagat is not coming back to us. And therefore, I'm going to finish this conversation now. And I just want to thank you for tuning in. And I promise you that there will be a finale to my conversation with dear Guru Jagat. Next week, please come, because my dear friend, Ian Van Sant, is going to be coming back to Deep Dialogues with me. And we're going to be discussing freedom. And if you are unfamiliar with the wonder of Ian Van Sant, what I'm going to do is I'll type in her extraordinary YouTube playing account so that you can see this is a big TV star who's had her own program for, I think, probably about 10 years called Iyanla Will Fix It. Iyanla, by the way, is Yoruba, and Yoruba, Iyanla means great mother in Yoruba, in the Nigerian tribes. So thank you very much indeed. Have a really good day or a good evening wherever you are, and you'll be hearing from me again. Many, many blessings, and thank you so much for coming through. Namaste. Mwah. Much love. So yeah, so you were saying about this wonderful book that you've written or you are in the process of writing.
Well, Stewart, I wonder what your experience is or has been with. I know you have this incredible book that just was birthed as well, and this book, 5D Femme, has been the hardest book it's been the hardest thing I've ever created. I mean, let alone written. And it is in a close form, but it still needs a lot of attention. And so I'm just in the midst of editing, but it's been a painful birthing process. I can't lie. It's taken years. so many different like drafts and edits and things it's still not quite, but we're close. We're very close, and it's gonna drop this spring. So we're just working on the last iteration.
So obviously, I want the viewers to be expectant and full of anticipation about spring when the book emerges.
Yeah.
But I wonder if I dare to ask, could you give us a little snippet of what the main themes might be?
Well, I mean, part of, I think, the difficulty with the subject matter is that I really wanted to deconstruct what it means to be bringing in the energy of Shakti on planet Earth right now, and what that, where that evolves and how everyone's involved in that, no matter what their gender is, and really this kind of post-feminist manifesto, and so that's it's one part manifesto, one part personal kind of experience, one part offering some different simple ways to continue to bring this energy, this creative and healing, and you could call it divine feminine, but I really wanted to take it to another morphing of itself. And so I meditated on the name for many years, and finally dropped in 5D Femme, which of course I'm very happy about, because I do feel like it describes what this mutation of the kind of archetype of being a woman in this time, but also how all of us, and the whole human spectrum, are responsible for the bringing of this new frequency to the planet. And it is beyond matriarchy, it's beyond patriarchy. And I think a lot of the difficulty for me writing it, kind of the clunkiness, is I had to kind of make up a new language almost. And I'm not sure, I think if I was given the chance, I probably would continue to write this book for another couple of years, but I do feel the immediacy of 2021, let alone, the publishers, and all that, which has been an interesting story, which I may not tell right this moment, but it's been such a kind of misfit book that I've really had to let it beat its own drum. And so it continues. It's kind of it's a crying baby, let's just call it that. But I do feel like this is kind of post Me Too, post some of the kind of fourth wave of feminism, which includes deconstructing the white female liberal kind of saviorism, and just all this kind of stuff that has come up so much and very necessarily in 2020, and then what's left, and what now is birthed from this kind of femme Shakti Kundalini frequency. So that's what the book is. Just a little book on some I've been hitting my head up against the wall. It's been I wish I could tell you that it was just kind of streamed out of me. When people say I just channeled the book in a week, I'm always so jealous, because this book has been such a little, she's been very demanding.
And therefore, we see our books as children, which I sometimes do. You never know quite what's going to pop out. And, the most important thing is, will I like this? And of course, we always do. But it's understandable that it would be challenging to bring such richness through the filters that have moved through. I don't regard you as being the filter. I mean the filter of the fact that you're bringing in celestial presence, you're bringing in fifth dimensional intelligence, and how that can filter through all of the varying rays and aspects of the timelines into this challenging world that we're in at this time. So I say, well done. And I know that all of the listeners, all of the viewers are thinking, oh my goodness, I can't wait to read this book. Because I also, before we, absolutely finalize, I'd love you to tune us into your other works, because I know that our conversation has been so rich and multidimensional that everybody's thinking, so how can I get a little bit more of this lady, of Guru Jagat? And so we did talk about Invincible Living, of course. And so are there other works that you would like to recommend or recordings that you've made?
Yeah, and we're actually very soon, maybe once this interview is out, our interview will also be. It's not out on Reality Riffing yet, right? Yeah, it's one of the next. So by the time this is out, probably our interview will be out. But I have a talk show called Reality Riffing, and Stuart, we had an incredible transmission. You gave an incredible transmission on it, and that's a place where I'm really, for thin and thick, because I'm getting, in this day and age, you get so much. I guess there's no longer the investigative reporter or the curiosity of human, how human ticks, because I get a lot of grief for being just genuinely curious about different people and different things and different. So that's kind of my whole thing with my talk show Reality Riffing is like, I just like to get inside of people's minds and see what makes them tick and what is enlightening them and what is, I'm very curious. And so, but I have out there, I have definitely pushed the envelope, and that is the place where if you're interested in getting your envelope pushed, that's the whole intent of Reality Riffing. And then we have Rama TV, which is where you can practice.
Before you go on, where do they go? Where does the viewer go to find Reality Riffing?
It's on all platforms. So it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on YouTube, all the streaming platforms. You can watch in the videos on YouTube. So that is something I'm very proud of, because I think it's a fascinating kind of journey through the human mind and human spirit. And then Rama TV, which is rama-tv.com. That's the digital platform where I teach the yogic technologies. So the meditations and the kriyas and all of that happens on Rama TV. And then, just gurujagat.com. Our world is very big, and it's very. I always have people like, kind of being like, whoa, where do I go in this huge world? And I'm happy about that, because I'm kind of a more is more person, but so you can find some place in this big world if you're interested in these subjects or what we've been talking about, to kind of connect. And some people don't want to do the yoga. So we have Rama Records. We're about to put out a new volume on our record label of high frequency, multi-genre music medicine, and so that's happening this week. And so you could just listen to the music, or just listen to an interview, or if you want to practice some meditation, then there's that as well.
Amazing. And you've been so generous with your time and with your energy and all these remarkable sharings. I just have one more question I'd love to ask, which is, we know that in a very short period of time, a new president and a new vice president will be inaugurated. And of course, the vice president is the first woman and the first Black woman to be elected in this illustrious position. If you had a word of wisdom or a phrase of wisdom for Miss Kamala Harris, what would it be?
Well, I have been really lucky to be a part of helping to raise some money when Kamala was running for president, and so got a chance to spend some moments with her, and as well as some of the Rama people are working really hard behind the scenes for her campaign, and now for her work as
Madam Vice President. But I feel like the moment that I saw Kamala, I saw a president. The presidential frequency was so apparent the moment that I set eyes on her. And so I felt that I was seeing history in the making. And this was fall of maybe 2018 during her presidential run. I could be wrong. It might have been 2018, but and so I really felt that I got to witness history in the making in that moment, and now in this moment, as the first woman ever and the first woman of color will touch that Bible to be inaugurated. And I think this is just the beginning of a journey of leadership in this realm, both with Kamala and others who will be elevated with her in this historic moment. So I would just, I bow my head to the legacy that she's creating, and the legacy of this kind of leadership during this dawning of the age of Aquarius is very exciting, and just all my prayers and all my blessings. I'm very, very excited and honored to be witnessing this in my lifetime.
Wow, bless you. You have been the first speaker in Deep Dialogues for this new season, and what a conversation. I know that we're all going to be looking back, all the people that have tuned in, thousands and thousands of people, are going to be looking back and really revering and honoring and loving all that you've shared with us. So from the bottom of my heart and the depths of my soul, thank you, thank you, thank you. And what a personal pleasure it's been reconnecting with you, firstly through the Rama event, and now apparently through Reality Rift. So absolutely amazing. And I hope that our connection goes on, that we have a continuing dialogue. And for all of you who are listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to go to Deep Dialogues on www.dianathevoiceofchange.com. And please go to the YouTube page and click subscribe. Namaste, much love. And just stay where you are for a second, if you wouldn't mind.